Hi and welcome to a new episode of the Crochet Along With Me vlog. I'm Andrea and this is normally a vlog in which I invite you to take your crochet project and join me somewhere outdoors in nature to enjoy the beauty of nature and to breathe some fresh air. In this episode I'm not outdoors because I tried that and failed. I went out yesterday to a bench out somewhere along the river and it was a bad idea. I forgot my SD card, it was noisy, and now it's raining, so I'm doing this inside. I hope you don't mind. Next time I hope I can take you along with me outdoors somewhere. What would you like to start with? Do you want to start with WIPs or finished objects? I have 3 finished objects and I'm wearing one of them. This sweater. This is a Tunisian crochet sweater that I've showed you in the past 2 episodes and it's finally finished. I had to remake this sleeve after I finished it, and actually I made this one 3 times. So in total this sweater has 5 sleeves, of which you can only see 2 because I frogged the rest. But the point is that it's now finally done and I've kept the stitch markers in place so I know how to count when I will eventually write down the pattern. So I'm wearing it now just to see how it feels, and it's very warm. I used some vintage yarn that I bought last year from a second-hand shop. It's called Shetland Star by Junghans Wolle. It's a German brand. And it's 70% wool and 30% acrylic at 250 meters per 100 grams, and that would be about a DK weight or size 3 in today's yarn weights. I used a 6mm Tunisian crochet hook, but this can be made with a regular crochet hook as well. And you've seen my adventures with creating this sweater in the previous episode, so I will not insist on it. The pattern itself, I don't know when it will be done. First I need to make the size charts that I want to use for all my garments from now on, and I think I will dedicate next week to that. So I hope that by the end of next week I will have a good chart that I can work from starting now, and to actually finally get my patterns for garments written down. This is another finished project. I finished this a couple of weeks ago and I was working on it on the previous episode. You can see how big it is now, and you can also see how nicely it blocked because it's pure wool. Before you couldn't see the eyelets, but now they are big and nice in this simple fabric. I still need to write up this pattern, even though it's very simple, and I already have the chart. I just need to sit down and write the instructions and then get it tested. I think I will do that later on in the year, so if you want to test this, just make sure you're subscribed to my emails, and when it's ready I will send out a testing call for it. The third project that I finished this month is this shawl. I think you've already seen the shawl in one of the previous shorts, and in the testing call that I sent out on Friday. I made this whole shawl this month. It took me about 2 weeks. I was very excited to work with this yarn. I bought this yarn as a souvenir yarn while out in Selin. It's a vacation destination along the Baltic Sea, and I like to buy yarn as souvenir from places I go to. And this is Katia Kaleido. One cake has 900 meters in 150 grams of yarn. So it's very light, as you can see. But it's not thin, so at 600 meters of yarn per 100 grams you expect the yarn to be extremely thin, but it's not thin, it's fluffy. So it creates this beautiful fabric, and it's 80% acrylic, so it takes steam very well. It's a very big shawl with a lot of coverage because of the shape, and the stitch counts are inspired by the mohair capelet that I showed you last time that I finished, and I still need to write that one up. But this one I wrote up as I worked on it from the chart. So now it's in testing. I know it's a lot more complex than other things I've designed that I haven't yet written out because they're so simple. But I don't know. This is how my brain works. I cannot control it. So that's it for finished objects this month. If you have a finished object that you'd like to share with me, please leave it in the comments below. Now I'd like to read a comment from the previous vlog, and this one is from Sarah Bryce. I love your work and love to hear from you. I love reading your newsletters that you send to me, and it is always a pleasant surprise to see what you come up with. XX, I guess that's kisses. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah used to be a tester for my patterns when I put out more regular crochet patterns, and I hope, Sarah, that you will apply to test again, because I really appreciate your input. Thank you so much for your comment and for being here. In the next episode, I will read one of the comments from this video, so if you have anything to tell me, just leave it in the comments below, and maybe it will be one of your messages that I will read aloud in the next episode. So let's talk about WIPs. Let me know in the comments what you are working on right now. As you can see, I have a Filet shawl on my hook. This is the beginning of the shawl, and it will have a motif that I will repeat as many times as I can, depending on how far the yarn will take me. I am using a custom cake of yarn. I bought 2 of these. I will show you the other one as well. 1500 meters of yarn, that's almost half a kilo at 4 ply. So this is a custom cake, and you can choose your colors. There are many shops that offer this kind of service, and I bought these 2 cakes from Sparwolle here in Germany. This particular yarn is 50% cotton, 50% acrylic, because I felt like the 100% cotton colors were very bright, but guess what? These ones are super bright as well. I expected a bit more muted colors. Colors on the website looked a bit more muted for this kind of yarn. But as you can see, working up, it looks quite nice. And I'm looking forward to the next color changes. So I bought these 2 cakes in order to design 2 filet shawls with them. And one of them will be this one, and the other one will be a dragonfly pattern. And if the colors are not great in the end, I will over dye the shawl and maybe make the colors blend a bit more into each other. So I started this 4 days ago now, I think. And one thing that I wanted to share with you is that you can actually start the project with the fringe, and then you don't need to calculate how much yarn you need to set aside to make the fringe at the end. You just make the fringe and the end rows that you need, weigh that, and then at the end, when you have that much left, you know it's time to finish the shawl. So it's much easier to do this than calculating, setting aside the yarn, and then doing it at the end. And it's also much nicer when you work from the fringe. I don't know why. I just love it, and it makes me want to work on this project more than if it were just a boring rectangle. As always, I'm using a 3mm hook with this kind of yarn because it gives me good tension, and you can't see through the fabric except where you have the holes, so that's great. You will be surprised at how many WIPs I have. So this month I started several WIPs because I felt the need to have something easy and meditative to make, and something that doesn't require a lot of brain power. And I made the big shawl in Tunisian crochet, but now it's finished, so I needed another project. So I started this Filet project. But at the same time, I also started another shawl with the same shape as the colorful one. This one is just plain yellow, and it's also Tunisian crochet, wedges, and it has a much easier to remember stitch pattern because it just repeats until you run out of yarn. As you can see, I'm still at the beginning with this one. It's not very big yet. And I'm using a sock yarn. but it's acrylic, so I would never use this yarn to make socks. It has the same weight as sock yarn and the same kind of texture, but it's 100% synthetic. So if you encounter this yarn, please don't use it to make socks unless you like really, really sweaty feet. I'm not joking. I bought this years ago and I wanted to make a baby blanket. I have 3 colors and I'm going to use them all up to make, I think, shawls, because the baby blanket idea didn't work out. Maybe I should go up a hook size, but it's a bit late now, so I don't really want to. This is blocked, by the way. When it's not blocked, it's like this. So if you're making something with lace stitches in Tunisian crochet, don't worry if it doesn't look like this. It's not supposed to, until you block it. So don't worry, keep going. As long as your stitches are correct, just keep going, and then when you're done, you block your item, and then it should be nice and pretty with open lace. This one could use even more steam, but my iron is dying, so it is what it is. The other color of yarn is this one, and then I have white. And I started another triangle shawl inspired by the blue one, but with a different decrease here. This one is not blocked, by the way. I don't know if I love it. It has a meditative, more or less, stitch pattern, but the problem is that these do not increase. So you will have this band all along one edge, and then longer and longer diagonals like this, with eyelets in the other direction. I think I will just make it because it's quite relaxing, and at the end I will see what it looks like, and if I hate it, then I will frog it after writing up the pattern for it. Because maybe someone will enjoy it even if I find it. Maybe in a gradient yarn it would look much nicer, or maybe even speckles or a fade or something more interesting than this boring grey yarn, which I cannot dye because it's 100% acrylic. Still, 4 more of these, which means 1,000 meters in total, so enough yarn for one shawl. This one you already know. It's growing. This week I didn't work on it because I did extra the last week to make the middle part bigger. So this is the middle where I changed the color, and you have a video in which I show you how to make sure that the color change is good right in the middle of the shawl. This weekend I will add part 8, which corresponds to part 6 from the beginning of the shawl. It's quite big and it looks very loose at the top, but at the end, when all the parts are finished, I will add single crochet stitches all along this edge, and that will bring them all in and make the edge a bit rounder, and the shawl will sit much nicer on my shoulders than it would now. I think the yarn choice for this one was pretty good because you can see the lace very well and you have a very slow gradient, and I would make some more projects with this kind of yarn choice where I use 2 identical gradients and change them in the middle. And this is the yarn that's left to finish the rest of the shawl. Last time I showed you one big white feather, and now I have more to show you. I can only work on this at the computer or with the pattern in front of me because you really need to pay attention to all the rows. You can't just learn them all. There are 22 rows in the pattern repeat. But at least they're the same and much easier than the macaw wings. So this is what I have so far. And this part is blocked. As you can see, it's soft and drapey, and this part is not blocked yet. So the idea is to have a shawl like this, And I have 2 more balls of yarn to finish it besides this. So probably at the end this one will have 18 feathers or 19. And as you can see, you could also use it as a skirt. So if you want to try this pattern when it's ready for testing, you could also choose to make a skirt out of the feathers. It would be a nice and twirly skirt. I found the brown WIP. It's this long. So I still have some work to do on it. I think I will make 2 more of these pattern repeats and I will call it. That should be enough. I only work on this in the evening at the TV while not working on the purple one, which is also not finished, but it's almost as big as a blanket now, so it will be finished soon. And I will share it with you when it's done. So that's it for WIPs. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to try any of these when the patterns are ready. And make sure you're subscribed to my emails if you want to know when they're up for testing, if you want to try any of them out. Of course, the Macaw shawl pattern is already out, so you can try that one in your own time if you want to. It's on the blog up to section 7 as of filming this. As for finished projects, meaning published patterns and such, I published the quadrillium cowl pattern a few weeks ago, and you have the tutorial on how to make the stitch pattern here on the channel. It's the previous video, that's not a short. If you want to try out that stitch pattern, you can use it for blankets or anything else you want to make. In the second part of this vlog, we usually have a discussion about a topic that's interesting, in my life at least, at the moment. So today's topic is magazines. Particularly crochet magazines, because I don't care about other types of magazines. Do you use crochet magazines? Do you buy them? Do you get them from the library? Do you use patterns from them? And do you like them? Do you actually make things from the magazines that you buy or borrow or get access to in any way? I'm asking because this is not exactly my experience. Growing up in Romania, we didn't have access to such magazines. I don't even know if there are any. I never saw any as long as I lived in Romania for 26 years. So there are other kinds of magazines, of course, like fashion and gossip and cars. But I've never seen a crochet magazine. My mom used to have some sewing magazines from Burda in the 1980s. I think she bought them. But since then, my parents never bought any magazines, and so I didn't have the cultural understanding or need for them. And I learned how to read and write patterns from online designers, not from magazines. So if you have any experience with these publications, I would love to hear from you, what your opinion is about them, and if you like them and read them and buy them. The reason I'm asking about them is because I'm thinking of applying with some of my patterns to some crochet magazines, and I've already done that last year for Morit. I don't know if you know about it. Morit Mag is an independent crochet magazine, and issue 4 is coming out now, and my design got accepted for it, so yay. If you haven't heard of it or didn't know that the new issue is coming out, I put a link in the description and you can check out all the designs that will be in this issue. It would be neat to know if it's worth it for you to get my pattern through a magazine as opposed to buying it individually through any of my online shops. So I'd love to hear from you on this topic if you have any insights or ideas or suggestions or opinions. And that's it for this episode. I hope you had fun seeing all of the projects that I started in the past month, and that you also enjoyed your own crochet project. If you want to keep up with me, you know where to find me. You can subscribe to the channel, but it's better if you subscribe to my emails. I generally send one email per week on Friday, and you have there everything, all the pattern launches, testing calls, new videos. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends who like to follow along with crochet podcasts or crochet vlogs. And I will see you soon. Bye!